아프리카 팀 프리고 스튜디오 라이브 2020 GSL 시즌 3 코리아's Last Stand.
What is going on, everybody? We are here for day 2 of the round of 16 of the GSL Code S.
Yeah, the day 1 was maybe the best day of GSL this year.
It was really good. Each game was really special and pretty epic, to be frank.
Yeah, it was a blast, and very exciting finish there with Armani taking out Zaun, the new Prince of Protoss.
Yes.
Well, we can't really call him that because there's a player called Prince who's actually very exciting as well. But, you know.
No, but Zhao was bringing a new level of play. It was really cool to see what he was doing. He was really innovating with the Disruptor play.
Yeah, it was super cool. And today we have a very exciting group as well. You know, with how stacked Group D is, not a lot of people are really talking about Group A.
Right,
not a lot of people are talking about Group B. But, I mean, you look at this lineup, and it's pretty hard to predict.
And it's cool to see that DRG is here today. The fact that he's back, we've talked about this before, but the fact that the game has been out for long enough, you have players that have had to go away, do their military service, and then return, and they're still able to compete.
Yeah. First, let's take a look at this round of 8. We're going to see who TY and Armani will be playing in the next round today. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, TY and Armani, man. I don't know if TY is going to take it this time, but again, this is one of the more fascinating narratives in StarCraft 2. The guy is casting the tournament. He's got his own way of playing the game, and he's just been crushing it. And Armani, it's really cool to see that he's finally gotten to the round of 8. I mean, it's been a long time with him being in the background, you know?
He was so close to retiring and everything, and look at this amazing result. He's literally never even made it to the round of 16 before that.
김동욱 선수와 이야기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 김동욱 선수도 지금 만나고 싶은 종족이 좀 분명히 있을 텐데요.
지난 시즌에 하려고 했는데 갑자기 사라지셔가지고 못했거든요. 그래서 이번 시즌에는 좀 재밌는 경기 해보고 싶어서 좀 그래도 연령대가 높으신 분을 좀 뽑아야 될 것 같아요.
그냥 딱 제가 생각한 대로 흘러가는 것 같아요. 다른 조들도 그렇고 도우기가 저를 뽑을 것 같은 예상하고 있어가지고
네.
뭐 그냥 점점하네요.
그러니까 워낙에 박 선수도 명경기를 최근에 테란전에 많이 좀 보여주고 있다 보니까 이 정도면 재밌는 경기 좀 되겠다 생각을 한 거죠.
근데 수호 형이 최근에 좀 폼이 너무 많이 올라오셔서 좀 저도 열심히 준비를 해야 될 것 같아요.
알겠습니다.
생각해둔 건 저그나 토스인데 그 한번 얘기를 들어보고 싶어요.
네.
그 주성욱 선수랑 민수요.
네. 강민 선수가 생각한 비조 들어가고 싶은 조예요?
저도 가고 싶고요.
예.
소영이 뽑아주면 제가 1+1으로 제스트 선수 데려가겠습니다.
와.
근데 누굴 뽑든 서로 뽑을 것 같아가지고 뭐 크게 의미는 없을 것 같아요.
네.
저 좀 지금 더워가지고 움직이기 싫어가지고 민수 뽑아서 민수가 저기 갔다 왔으면 좋겠는데.
야! 민수가 뽑고 자동으로 이렇게 들어가는 걸로.
저도 솔직히 가기 귀찮거든요.
귀찮아요?
그래가지고 그냥 수호 형이 저희 둘 중에 더 쉽다고 생각하는 사람 뽑았으면 좋겠어요.
주성욱이냐 강민수냐 주절 가장 여기서 약한 선수는 누굽니까?
강민수요.
강민수! 당첨!
그 4명 중에 제일 약체가 수호 형이라고 생각하고 있어가지고 뭐 재밌는 승부 한번 해보겠습니다.
이야! 강민수 선수가 지금 고민을 좀 하는 것 같은데 뭐 이야기 듣고 싶은 선수 있으세요?
저 성우 형 한번 물어볼게요.
조성욱 선수.
조성호 선수 입장에서 강민 선수가 지금 현재 이 저그들 중에서 어느 정도 급의 저그라고 좀 보고 있나요?
확실히 병렬이 명우보단 아래죠.
그럼 S급으로 보기 좀 약간 좀 애매해요?
예.
예.
확실히 저도 S급은 아닌 것 같고요.
예.
조성호 선수는 확실히 최근 너무 잘해가지고 원하시는 S급 저그들이랑 마음껏 경기하셨으면 좋겠습니다.
그렇게 되네요? 내가 안 뽑으면 알아서 죽을
아,
거다. 죽으면 좀 보내주면 되는 거거든요. 내가
누군가요? 이야, 주성욱 선수가 지금 들어가게 됐어요.
수호 형이랑 도우 형도 확실히 성호 형보다 그 성훈 형을 원하는 것 같아가지고 그래서 뭐 다 같이 성훈 형도 뭐 저랑 하는 걸 좋아하실 것 같아서 그냥 다 같이 행복하게 행복조 만들려고 이렇게 뽑았습니다.
네, 저 항상 D조 올렸었거든요.
그러니까요.
그래가지고 D조도 뭐 쉬운 조는 아닌데 워낙 평소에 너무 어려운 조 올렸어가지고 좋은 것 같아요.
예.
최악만 피하자.
예, 오늘 진짜 축하드립니다. 주성 선수가 이게 목표로 했던 이 A그룹, B그룹 중에 B그룹으로 들어가게 되면서 D조 선택이 마무리가 됐습니다.
I like that the TV for DRG in the
funny.
chair.
So funny.
It's
I have
so
no idea
funny.
why you did that, but okay.
Yeah, we never actually got the backstory on that, but I thought that was a pretty good touch by production to put the TV there. I like that.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about before DRG, you know, he's already been in the military, he's come back, he's looking very good. Here's a fun fact. He's the only player in GSL that has a championship from Wings of Liberty.
Wow.
So that shows...
That was a different time, man.
And let's not forget, he got top 4 last season, and part of that top 4 was Smashing Innovation.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, most people consider better than Cure, so the fact that Cure has picked him here, I don't know about that, Taste. I think DRG is going to beat Cure.
Well, the thing was, too, last season when DRG was playing, not only did he look insanely good, he looked insanely modern in his play, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the past. Actually, I think this is a problem in general with StarCraft 2, is people are too caught up in the past. Like, remember MVP versus Squirtle? And I'm like, the games now are so much better, you know? And the fact that DRG looked so good, it looked like he could have won that season had he not been knocked out. He was crushing.
Oh, he looked very good, just CVZ was not to Rogue's level.
Right. And so I'm very curious. I think Cure is going to be a good test to see where DRG is here. We're going to start this off on the map Death Orb for game 1.
All right, let's see it. Let's see if Cure's pick is going to pay off for him, or he's going to be regretting it tasteless.
Yeah, and again, with Cure here, you know, this is a guy, he's been very good. He's been a little bit overshadowed by the other Terrans. Let's see how far he can get in this tournament. Our game's now loaded up. Cure versus DRG, game 1 starts now.
영광의 전투가 펼쳐진다. GSL을 위하여. 전투 지원이 들어왔다. 함께 있다. 우린 더욱 강하다. 드래곤 피닉스 게임 큐어 김도. 아프리카 프린스 DRG 박수호.
Yeah, one of the things I love about DRG is that in the early days of StarCraft, there was always this narrative about, like, you can't be a pro if you get too old. Like, there was this weird thing people would say, like, your hands don't work as fast. It was basically BS. And players like DRG taking time off, doing their military service, and then coming back, and then still able to compete at basically the highest level in GSL. It's a good thing for pro gamers in general, right? I mean, this is really good for the future. You can keep playing games even when you get older.
Yeah, actually, it's important to note with DRG as well. Like, he made top 4 last season.
Yeah.
If I'm almost certain I'm remembering this fact correctly. DRG right now is older than Nest T was when he won his championship, and Nest T is the oldest champion we've ever had.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, because people remember it was like, wow, this big thing that Nest T was doing well, because he was kind of like he was basically a StarCraft 1 coach / 2 vs 2 player when StarCraft 2 came out. Then he finally got his chance to shine and show his pure fucking brilliance.
Yes. No,
he was
StarCraft just 2. Insane.
And yeah, the thing is, he was so old comparatively. That's so weird to see that Marine pop out right there. But he has the depot out to finish. But yeah, that's it's kind of extra exciting with DRG because the older we make the champions, I mean, people should have them. Like, you can actually play forever. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we see this in chess where there are these, you know, top-tier grandmasters in their 60s, and there's no reason why they wouldn't also translate over here into StarCraft. But there was a weird stigma. I don't know exactly the reasons for it,
people
but out here
lose
in Korea,
focus when they get older, man.
Well, things happen. You have kids. You got to go to school. Maybe you get a girlfriend, something like that. But yeah, there was a big thing in Korea, and I saw it. You see it on forums a lot. But people saying, oh, like, your hands are going to slow down when you go to... And it just isn't true. Well, it's just not the case.
To be fair, they did some studies that people are always bringing up where it's like, well, your hand speed and reaction time do go down just slightly. But honestly, I will let my hand speed and reaction time drop a little bit for the amount of experience and intelligence I gain over time.
Yeah, well, also, I think another thing that happened early on was that people figured out a way to measure APM, and that became this kind of exciting talking point of like, oh, look how fast they're going. And then people started to fixate more on speed over, you know, making your actions actually useful. You could see some pro gamers who are fairly slow but actually make much more efficient actions.
Yeah, you know, I think a great argument against all this reaction time BS that I'm sure people are going to link us to for talking about this would be Daigo. He's like the oldest top-tier pro in the entire esports scene.
How old is Daigo?
Daigo is older than I am. So he
he's
is
38,
like, I
30.
think he's 38, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be a little bit wrong on that. But that is, like, I mean, it's a fighting game. It's reaction time actually means more in that than in StarCraft.
That's very true.
So if he can still do it based on his experience and intelligence, anyways, it makes the story of DRG, I think, a lot better, a lot more exciting. It's very, like, this is what I want, you know? I want these guys that are older to be like, you know what? Screw the norms. I'm going to play video games my whole life.
Yeah, well, also, I imagine, like, in our future, as we continue to cast, we're going to be casting people in their 40s and then their 50s and then their 60s, right? I think we're going to see the whole thing play out.
Amazing.
It's happening, Artosis. That's our destiny.
I hope so. Because if it resets at some point, it's only teenagers, and you and I are 60 years old then.
That's
so
right,
commentating, I'm like, ooh, tasteless. I don't know if we're the right people for this anymore.
We're talking about memes that are completely irrelevant. It's like, no, they were not alive for that. It won't work. So this game here,
you can't has cheeseburger. Like, come on, the kids are wrong.
Nobody says pwned, man. That's not a thing anymore. So this game has been pretty, I would say, ordinary for a TVZ to start things off. We're going to have the first two medevacs come out here and put some pressure on. Stim's about to finish up, and this is going to be some control play here, where we just see the Terran try to mitigate the spread of creep here.
Yeah, looks like he picks off an Overlord right there next to Stim. Going to remove some of the creep. Good micro on the Queens, though, making sure they stay alive. He's already dealt some damage to one of those medevacs. 1-1 going to be finishing up for DRG relatively quickly here. This is part of his style that we saw against Innovation, which I think is just fantastic. If you recall, DRG ended up losing his fourth base against Innovation and actually fought back with pure macro style. And a big part of that is getting your upgrades done, right? So here's his fourth, and, well, this push shouldn't be able to kill it, that's for sure.
No, this is probably not going to do anything. The Lings are going to be able to push this back. And I think this might actually be a little bit of an overextension here by DRG. This is one of those moments where it's like, as far as an engagement goes, kind of the sunken cost fallacy at play here, where, like, you look at that and you go, okay, that you're not going to win that, but he committed anyways. And actually, this is going to be, I think DRG will still hold this off eventually, but the next follow-up push was going to be pretty damaging.
Yeah, he does hold that off. It was actually a little bit of a mistake because his melee attack started before his carapace, and his melee finished right before he engaged there. If he had his carapace, he's going to trade a lot better.
Yeah.
So I think that was just a slight mistiming there on the engagement for DRG.
And for now, what we want to do is just see, is the fourth base going to survive? This is like kind of your textbook TVZ. Is the Terran trying to put pressure on the fourth? Is the Zerg going to actually hold this off? And I think there's going to be a little bit of time here. I like this counterattack as well by DRG. Coming through here, the depot wall not up. They'll be able to trade off some more of this stuff and weaken a push later on.
Whoa, those mines. All right. Well, I like the idea, but the mines kind of ruin it a little bit there. Now, DRG looks like he's actually going to Hydra Tech, which is not exactly what I was expecting from him.
Yeah, that's a little bit atypical for him to do. I'm curious to see how this is going to pan out.
It's like it's a pure macro type of style, right? Like if you're going to go for Lingbane Hydra, it's just ground power. That's it. And it's fallen out of favor quite a bit. Well, you know what? Actually, you might just go into Lurker. I think
it's going to be a Lurker play, but we'll see.
Lurkers are pretty popular right now. He's going into Hive. Yeah, there's the Lurker Den. But he's getting some Hydra upgrades too. I mean, I think that's fine, but...
Okay, good denial there by Kier. Kier actually speeding ahead here as far as supply goes and doing a pretty good job of keeping DRG honest over here. And here's 2-2 about to finish as well. But all in all, I'd say DRG's defense has actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm worried that Cure, I think he had a pretty good lead to start this off, but he might be hemorrhaging just a little bit too much to where he's not going to have any pushes.
Yeah, I think
you know
he got like a little edge early on, but DRG's been so on top of his upgrades. I think that he's looking pretty good right now. Like I'm not too afraid for DRG at the moment, even though Cure is keeping the pressure on and is not being too cost inefficient or anything.
Right.
And it's not like DRG's being perfectly efficient during all of this either. But you can see this pure macro power. Like he's just now starting Baneling speed, which is amazing to see. Right? Like normally we talk about rushing into Baneling speed. Here he's already got 2-2 done and Hive is almost done. He starts Baneling speed. So he was not really all that worried the entire time.
Yeah, and one of the things about DRG that was a feature of his play when he was older, or I should say he was older, back in the day, with in the earlier iterations of StarCraft 2, is he was actually very solid on layer tech and just sustaining that and winning every fight. And he would actually have a very delayed Hive tech. I'm curious if we're going to have any similarities with that here this time around.
Well, he's got the Hive done, so it seems like he just wants to get into those lurkers. He's going to get Adrenal, of course, to go with his Lings. I like it. Lurkers are just kind of in vogue right now. And we've been seeing people get better and better with them. And honestly, I want to see Ling Lurker against Bioplay. It's just like exciting, right?
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's just very cool to see the repositioning of the Lurkers, trying to run around with the bio and all that.
This happens in some of the matches where Lurkers crop up for a little bit and become trendy. Right now, again, Cure just trying to put some pressure on here. We do have a larger push coming down, right over here. And I don't know if there's enough defense here to save this base. This hatchery didn't start that long ago. But let's see, DRG's going to come in now. And Lurkers are available. And yeah, actually, I'll retract that. I think actually DRG's going to hold this pretty well.
Yeah. Ooh,
whoa,
there's been
good mine hit.
There have been pretty good mine hits overall. Nice targeting on that Lurker. But yeah, there's been pretty good mine hits overall here from Cure throughout. So DRG's he definitely could have done a little bit better on a few of the engagements, but it's all right, right? He's into Lurker tech, which means he can start to be pretty cost efficient in a lot of ways, especially if he mixes in a few Vipers, which we haven't seen yet.
You're kind of seeing the limitations of Lurkers when they try to engage stuff, especially in that last little engagement. The Lurkers having to leapfrog and try to get close to the Marines able to pick the fights and then back off. And that was really well done here by Cure. We're now in a game where Cure is maxed out. He is far ahead of DRG. Now, when you're playing a player with Lurkers, a lot of times it really just depends on what the Lurkers connect with. Because if Lurkers get a good engagement, everything dies.
Okay,
but Cure is looking a little bit more robust right now.
He does.
He's definitely, if this game is a race, he's starting to take the lead.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, this is a mostly Ling Lurker army, so that's very supply efficient. So even though we see way more army supply for Cure, it's not as crazy as if he was going for DRG was going for something else. Now look at that, insane good connections there with the Banes. Some Lurkers run up. It doesn't feel like they're quite doing enough.
Yeah, there's still that one Lurker bro there. A scan comes down. It looks like that Lurker will be taken out, excuse me. And I think we're going to start seeing Cure take control of this game, and we might end up seeing a GG here.
Yeah,
it seems
maybe.
like he's beginning to just close in on DRG.
Okay, it looks like he's going to try to take out some of these tanks, but it's not going so efficiently right now. Okay, the Lings are taking out tanks. More Lings coming in to take out the few bio units that are left over.
Yeah, he actually does take those tanks out, so the position is no longer solid for Terran, but I think, if I'm getting a good read on this, it seems like the reinforcements may come in here. It still might be a little bit too much for DRG to handle, but let's see how he handles it.
Yeah, no, that's a tough army. He does not have enough to hold that off right now. Looks like he'll some decent Baneling connections, but that's it.
Yeah,
great. that was a really interesting game. I think that DRG had a lot of power early on. I really liked his upgrade timings, but Cure was just slightly more efficient in every way. I wonder about the Ling style into Lurker, because it feels kind of like there's a little bit of overlap there.
Yeah, and also, you know, when you have a limited number of lurkers and lings, there's a lot of little tactics micro-wise you can do to fight that, and we saw that, especially in that skirmish over in the bottom left, where like the lings are attacking the lurkers burrow, and the Marines just run back and fish the lings towards them and kill them. And you basically get to pick your fights. It's why lurkers are profoundly strong for turtling, but it does not help with growth. You have to seize an area, control it, and keep it. And we're actually about to start game 2. I'll get into that in a second. All right, let's go.
영광의 전투가 펼쳐진다. GSL을 위하여. 드래곤 피닉스 게임 큐어 김도. 아프리카 프린스 DRG 악수고.
I want to talk a little bit, again, about the choice of DRG to go lurker there. And I mentioned I didn't think that it really pairs with lings correctly. Let me talk about the theory behind that for a second. Right, lurkers are an extremely long-range siege type unit. Okay, you can liken them to old school swarm hosts. You can liken them to siege tanks, to colossi, a little bit less to colossi, broodlords. Really, their closest things are like siege tanks or broodlords. Okay, where it's like it's a little bit slower. You know,
it has to set up to start to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, flanking it really works super well. It can't be left alone, really.
Right.
These are important aspects to it. Now, for instance, whenever we see anyone go Ling Bane, you generally don't see them try to go into broods from that because it doesn't make sense, because it doesn't transition into the broods, because broodlords need some weight underneath them. They need like roaches or hydras or some large amount of infestors and queens, right? They need something, basically these big siege units, they need higher health, like tankier stuff near them. Yeah. This is why we see Ling Bane go into Ultra a lot, because you're actually adding some health, adding some damage to that composition. And that's why we see things like Ling Bane Hydra. Well, I mean, that one's a little bit different. We don't really see that comp as much anymore, so let me back up from that. But yeah, to go from Lings into Lurkers, they don't truly pair that well. Like, I know that's a composition, like, for instance, in Brood War or something, but this is a bit different. And it's like you were saying, there's micro-tactics you can use against that. Pull back, the Lings will get baited into the army and die. Lings are not going to tank a whole lot for Ultras, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Banes, I mean, not Ultras, for Lurkers.
No, I knew what you meant, yeah.
And, like, for instance, Banes and Lurkers actually have a lot in common with what they end up doing, right? It's like splash damage. Anyways, I don't think that, like, I liked a lot of the things about the way DRG was playing, and I like Lurkers against Terran. I think they're very cool, and I think that we're going to learn a lot about that in the coming couple years. But to go into it in that way, it didn't feel quite right.
Yeah, well, you know, Lurkers are kind of funny because they're one of those units where, when isolated, they suck. Like, tanks are like this. Like, a tank is like StarCraft 1 or 2. A tank has been one of the most damaging, powerful units in the game. But if you get a tank alone, you can isolate it, you can kill it. There's tactics you can use against it. And the Lurker is a little bit like that. If you don't quite have enough stuff, it was pretty easy, for instance, back there with Cure to untangle the defense of DRG and get in there. And I think especially in that last game, that was a game where it was like not, I think, one fight that turned the tide. It was instead a game where there was a lot of just engagements where the Zerg didn't trade efficiently.
Yeah, there were. We saw it from the very first one at the 4th base onwards. There was a lot of engagements like that.
So we're on a new map. This map, it seems like in the TVZs we get to cast on it, that it's one where both the Terran and the Zerg tend to grow going up on the map. We don't see a lot of attention on the lower platform. We'll see if it's going to be a factor this time around. And I would imagine this is a game where as Terran develops, we have the gold base taken first. I like that CC block. That's very cute. Is he actually going to force that to cancel? I think he is. That's actually very cool.
That's awesome.
The SUV does not build as fast as those legs do damage, and that's very annoying to have the third command center delayed.
Look at that.
Yeah.
What a great little encounter. Forced cancel. The Hellions come back. 2 SCVs killed and lost mining time. Some high-quality Ling harassment. And, of course, we saw the drop over here. Didn't really do much. DRG was ready for it. Evolution Chambers on the way now for DRG.
And now the Liberator's going to come through the bottom here and continue to try to do some harassment here. But, again, that Ling counterattack, that really paid for itself. That was really nice. And especially, you know, the third command center is probably the most pivotal expansion for Terran to get. I mean, right now, Legacy of the Void's in a state where everybody gets their second base up, like, at the same time. You don't have to be a high-ranked player to get your second base up, right? It's just part of the build order, you know?
Yeah.
But delaying the third, this could actually factor into quite a bit later on down here.
Sure. We saw some fancy micro tried from DRG, failed it a little bit there. Does have his 1-1 on the way, layers starting now. Third command center is going up for Cure. Kind of assume he's going to take the golden base. That's what we've seen mostly from
that seems to be the trend, is you take the gold base. And the Zerg, it's funny, it's sort of a yin and yang as far as expansions go. The Zerg seems to want to take the gold base last on this map. Is try to do some defensive play. Oh, hold on a sec. We got these Hellions doing a lot of damage over here. This is actually pretty huge.
Yeah, that's a lot of kill drones.
Yeah, that's almost all the drones at that base. So 15 kills there. But just to what I was saying a second ago, yeah, this is a funny map because we see the Zergs take every base but the gold base.
Yeah.
They want to just expand as far away, and because Terran gets the gold, and that complements the push because it's further out on the map, so it's easier to defend, and you want a forward position. But it seems like the game plan for Zerg on this map is to basically just let them mine out the gold base and win after that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of times we see Muta on this map, which will harass that gold quite a bit. But yeah, as far as Zerg goes, you want to expand away. And those top right bases are much harder to push than the gold. You can harass it so well as Terran as well. It's just not really that worthwhile for Zerg.
Yeah, it's a funny feature on the map is that in this map, that upper right base that's actually being taken right now, that is so far away for the Zerg that it's hard to push. We actually see some games where Terrans will just, instead of trying to wipe out bases, which is the most general way to win a StarCraft game, they'll actually be pushing more towards the main. Try to just kill the hive.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a drop coming in here.
Yeah, triple medevac, not completely full, but brings in enough Lings that he does have to pick that up. So good defense there from DRG. DRG is going for Mutas, which is the standard on this map, really. Ling Bane Muta, definitely the way that Zergs have been playing it.
Yeah, so, sorry, go ahead, please.
Kier's just kind of unloading here.
Yeah, this is kind of
really
an odd spot
though.
to drop. I don't know.
It's like
That's what he was trying to do there.
Yeah, he's trying to get everything out at once to get some sort of engage, but
yeah,
not finding much.
And he's just continuing to roam here. I mean, I guess you got to take what you can get, right? If you can kill an Overlord or creep tumors or whatever, you might as well go for it.
As well.
And I got to say, DRG's creep spread is actually pretty good this game.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it was.
It was looking pretty good.
Yeah, no, definitely Kier's come through and carved this out, but I'm worried for DRG here. I feel like this game is starting to resemble Game 1, where Kier is just sort of taking a lead here and there and everywhere.
Yeah, he is being a bit more efficient, but it is a different unit set, right? Like, we have some Mutas on the way. We'll see when that Baneling speed gets started. It's interesting to watch how late he's willing to get it. But he's re-pushing out that creep spread. It is still looking pretty good, to be honest, even after some good clearing going on. And, you know, with the Mutas, I think he's going to have a better mid-game fighting set of units, which is where he kind of went wrong with the basically pure Ling in the last game.
Yeah, well, Mutas start to negate the ability for the Terran player to drop and control the Zerg's position on the map here. And it looks like this time is finally here, like in this game. Like, there's no... I don't think the Terran's going to be present on the map anymore. So now I think it's going to come down to whether or not Terran can have a push where they're able to actually take a huge fight and win it and start to then erase bases. And it's no longer a game about harassing and trying to hurt the Zerg in various ways that way.
It's kind of interesting. We see just like Cure is kind of shaving down the edges of DRG everywhere. He's been picking off Overlords. His Mind Connects have been pretty good, picking off Lings here and there. But DRG is getting pretty damn big, man. He's at 85 drones. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big economy. His 2-2 is finishing up here as well, just in line with Kier. And now he's flying around with the mutas, right? So these medevacs just definitely not going to do as well as they have been.
Yeah, and this is really where you can see clearly the mutas cannot, or the Marines, I should say, cannot really take fights and hold their position. If you have to pick up, the mutas are going to snipe the medevac, and then it's going to start to snowball, and you're going to get further and further behind here. And we've got another base actually coming here for DRG. This one, the other base at the very, very top of the map. And this is pretty much the last base Zerg takes before the gold base.
Yeah, well, it seems like that base is what decides almost every TVZ on this map.
I think you're right.
It's the base that Terran will end up pushing. Your creep gets there last. There's a natural choke on the ramp going up to it. And there's some positions where you can be like outside it on low ground where it's harder for Lingbane to hit. So we'll see if that's how this game ends up skewing, but most likely that's what we've seen.
Yeah, and the mutas are going to come in here and start to try to hit.
He has mines in here, Tasteless.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, he does. I didn't see that.
At
Damn.
least one, at least one.
But the mutas are still now doing damage. This is pretty well timed out. They came in here right before the turrets were finished. And he's going to get chased out here. And I think what you said a second ago, Artosis, is totally correct. Is that this base here in the very upper right, as far as Zerg bases go, that's the one that's going to be pushed, this new one that's being taken here. Because it seems like on this map, the more games we cast on it at least, there is no easy spot for Terran to push up until this point of the game.
Yeah, regularly they'll push the 4th on most maps, but the 4th here, the way that all Zergs expand straight up, is the furthest away map from base from Terran on the whole map. So it's like impossible to push. So you have to push the 5th. But you have a gold base, so it's like kind of okay, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so the Marines are all forking out here. Great counterattack coming in here. And he's going to go right on top of this planetary. The planetary will be killed off. And now we got to see, is the Terran going to be able to push into here and do enough damage? We're at the point in the game where now the Terran has a position, and I think out of all the maps we have, this is the one that comes the latest, but a position where you can try to push in and maybe win the game.
Well, he's about to have 3-3 pretty quickly here, and that's very late for DRG, which is pretty normal anyways, right? Getting that hive a bit later for him. Let's see. I mean, he has a lot of Lings, he has a lot of Banes. His army supply a bit lower, but it is mostly Ling Bane, so very efficient.
And now Zerg is finally going to take that gold base. And it's funny, because as the Zerg takes that gold base, this is when the Terran's gold base is usually dried up. And so any momentum that Terran had in the matchup, it starts to deteriorate. But that being said, the Terran does get to try to squeeze into the upper left bases finally, and we kind of see the game go from there.
DRG actually expanding to the low ground as well, which or the low ground, the bottom of the map, I guess we should say, from his main base. We haven't seen that as often, so kind of exciting to see that. Ultralisk Cavern is on the way, and that is definitely what he needs, especially considering he's been at over 90 drone economy for a very long time.
Yeah.
So once he actually gets into his Ultras, like, look at his bank. His bank is starting to look pretty healthy here. You add some Ultras into this army, it becomes really much harder for Kier to deal with.
So, with the gold base mining out, it actually ends up, like, it's almost unintentional, but it opens up a pathway where you can then start to push into that lower platform. And we did see, we saw Kier scan down there and see that a hatchery's making, so we might actually see some action over there.
Oh, I didn't realize he had scanned that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's going to want to send something there, most likely. All right, huge amount of Biomoon across the map. Look at this, 131 army supply for Kier. We're at about 106 for DRG, and he is maxed out. Very heavy on the drones this game. Let's see what these Banes and Lings can end up doing. It's a very heavy Bane army, but he doesn't quite have 3-3.
Yeah, he's got a very good spread here as well with the Marauders over here in the front. The Lings and Bane's going to come in. That was definitely an overextension. Ooh. I do like this counterattack over here, but again, I'm worried that this push here from Kier is going to have the muscle to end the game.
It could. It's definitely a possibility. It looks like his counterattacks are doing reasonably well, so maybe there won't be too many reinforcements. Oh, the Banes actually connect there with one of the mines. Ooh.
Yeah, Terran still has some serious presence here. 3-3 is about to finish up here for the Zerg, but let's see if Kier can push further forward here.
DRG is about to have his upgrades, though, right? He's got 3-3,
Yeah.
he's got chitinous. We don't have ultras yet, but a lot of lings, a lot of banes, still a decent bane from him as well.
Yeah, I like this expansion Terran's taken. This is cute. This didn't actually occur to me. I kind of in my head always imagine that Terran has to kind of take the same order as a Zerg as far as ringing around the edges of the map, but I guess you might as well take that one because it's going to be more free later on, the base in the upper left.
Sure. Maybe a little bit more defendable or something. A little bit closer for Terran to get to.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like DRG gonna put on some pressure here with his Ling Bane Muta. Ultras finally starting to be produced. Again, those are going to be very hard for Kier to deal with.
And the Ultras basically give the Zerg the ability to sustain and fights a lot longer. But hold on, we got a big attack coming up over here, and there is just not enough Terran to actually defend this. So this base is taken out. It's funny, we were talking about Terran taking that instead of the upper left, but that is a quicker attack location for the Zerg to try to hit.
Just constant Ling Bane flooding in everywhere. This is part of what happens when you let Zerg have 95 drones for a big chunk of the game. He's just got never-ending Ling Bane at this point.
Okay, and now this is a pretty insane moment here in this game because he's going to push into this base, take this out, but now he's going to have access to the hive. Yeah. And this is one of the ways that only a Zerg can lose a game. Is that structure is so important, and generally a lot of significant tech is inside the main base. That's just the way the game goes.
Pool in there. That is the most important building for him right now.
Yeah, you never think of spawning pool as tech, but it is very important tech to lose in the late game.
Yeah, you have quite a while of not being able to make any units if you lose that thing.
Everything needs to be paired with Zerglings in StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
GG.
All right. You know, both these games kind of flowing pretty easily to one side or the other, but I think both sides played well in both games too, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
But this, in my opinion, was a much more cohesive strategy from DRG. The Ling Bane Muta into Ultra rather than Lings into Lurker. I think something like that works a lot better. Now we're going to go into Pillars of Gold next.
Yeah, the thing about Golden Wall, man, is that that's like the way that Zerg wins, or the way that DRG wins, I should say, on that map, that's how all Zergs tend to win, is you just sort of have the game stretch out, the Terran runs out of funding, and then you get the gold base, and that's when you can tip the game into your favor. And I thought Kier maybe had a shot. He didn't, but this is a different map and a much more pushable one. So let's see what happens in Game 3.
영광의 전투가 펼쳐진다. GSL을 위하여. 드래곤 피닉스 게임 큐어 김도. 아프리카 프린스 DRG 박수.
So yeah, like I was saying earlier, that map, again, it's kind of hard for Terran to win with a push because there's not a really good spot to push into.
Yeah.
This map is different. I think you're much, every new base is much more, it's reasonable to think a Terran can win a fight there and kill the position.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, something that we saw recently was utilizing from Dream against Armani. We saw him utilizing those destructible rocks that weren't torn down yet to end up killing that kind of like pocketed fourth base. Because if you take the fourth anywhere else, it's really far away as Zerg, right? So that's generally where you're going to see the fourth, is that one that's like kind of tucked in towards the main. So we could see something like that out of Kier for sure.
Yeah, and I think DRG is showing like just overall a much cleaner game in that last game. It seemed like there was a little bit of hiccups in Game 1. He definitely took some fights he probably shouldn't have taken, you know?
Yeah, he just kind of engaged poorly a few times. Mine hits were reasonable, and then he got into a composition that didn't fully gel.
So far for this game, I think it's going to be a pretty passive start here. We got quick expansions going around. I imagine this is going to be a game like a lot of other TVZs we see where it's going to be about Terran trying to push the 4th base while he's taking his 3rd base.
Well, that's classic TVZ. Maybe not on Golden Wall because of where that 4th base is located, but other than that.
I have a question for you, actually. Do you think that Golden Wall favors Zerg and ZVT?
Yeah.
Because it's like just there's expansions.
It's a bit too big, and the 4th base is basically impossible to kill.
Yeah.
You can't, like, it's a base when they take it, you're like, well, we'll kill them some other way.
What am I going to do?
Whereas classic TVZ is so oftentimes just about, like, okay, put the pressure on the 4th. Even if you don't kill the 4th, sometimes you start getting good trades there.
Yeah.
Which can lead you into a better push later on, things like that. And if you're not keeping pressure on Zerg, then they just get however many drones they want. DRG was on 95 drones that game.
It was pretty insane.
Well, 94 for a huge chunk of it, which basically allowed him to make Infinity Banes and just, you know, only engage on creep. How are you going to stop Infinity Banes on creep?
It's a funny thing about the map, because when we first had it introduced in GSL, I would look at it and think, well, I mean, this is probably pretty good for Terran, right? There's a gold base that's easy to take as your 3rd, and gold bases are so pivotal on most maps.
You know,
that there's entire strategies centered around them. And then what's funny is that's a map where the Terran basically gets a free gold base and can't even capitalize on it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think gold bases mostly affect, they're really good for Zerg against Protoss and for Protoss against Terran.
Yeah.
I think that those are the 2 areas where gold bases are
that's
strongest.
an interesting point.
Yeah. I think it doesn't affect Terran quite as much. Like, mules don't gain anything from a gold base, for instance.
That's
right?
a good point.
You can kind of make a gold base yourself by dropping all your mules at a new location. But yeah, actually, to be perfectly honest, I think Golden Wall would be a better map if the top right and top left expansions were just taken out.
Oh,
if you made
interesting.
Zerg take that other base as a 4th, I think that would be a much more interesting
that's
map.
actually a really interesting way to try to improve that map. Because the thing about Golden Wall is I like the idea of the 2 platforms.
Yeah, the ideas behind the map are fantastic. It's just the more it gets figured out, the more one-sided it seems.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely issues on both sides, and one race is able to capitalize on it.
Okay, we have a very, very different build coming out of Kira here that we need to talk about, too.
Yeah,
he
please.
is rushing to Liberator range. Our observer showing where he might be setting up said Liberator. Obviously, we saw kind of, later spires, later layers from DRG, so this could be kind of a stylistic, a choice against the style of DRG, right? Because if you have a ranged Liberator that's in the right location on the right map and your opponent doesn't have a spire, you're just kind of like, oh, I guess like I don't get to mine from these patches anymore.
Right, yeah. No, if you're in the wrong tech, you're in a lot of trouble here. And I think this is very cool to be seen from Kier here.
Yeah, and here's what I'm hoping. I want to see the medevac upgrade too, since he has a fusion core and he's going bio. Because normally we see the fusion core, when we see it early on, it's like BCs, which oftentimes go into mech. So we never get to see that medevac upgrade, but I think it's actually better than people give it credit for.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. So we're going to see this strategy introduced in a second here. The Liberator's actually headed up here.
You know, I'm thinking back to the various forms of the medevac boost upgrade. And I'm like, the only person I can remember off the top of my head using was Kelliger. I literally can't remember anyone else using it.
Yeah, it's rare we even bring it up in a cast, to be honest.
No.
Okay, so you can see this is set up here, and if you don't have anti-air, it's like, what do you do? Yeah.
You just don't mind from 2 of your patches.
There's just a degree of dishonesty of what can be shot in that circle, you know? The drone's like actually out of the circle, and it's like, nah, it's close enough.
Yeah. You have to be really careful. You basically have to, yeah, look at this. See how the drones keep going over?
Yeah.
You have, like, in the early game, you know how you compared workers to mineral patches with
you
the
can
right
like
clicks?
sync them up correctly.
To redo that on this base for some of your patches right now is so annoying because you're so busy doing so many things at the moment.
Oh, this is a great counterattack here. This is damage that DRG needs to pull off here because right now he's been taking a lot of heat from these Liberators.
Yeah, that was nice harassment right there. 7 SCVs. Very, very nice. My God, the drone kills just keep going up.
Yeah, and you can see this sweet spot over here. I think that Spore that just got picked up can get over there and hit it. I'm not totally sure.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, it can actually hit that.
Yeah, he did. He scooted it over. But still, he's getting some sick damage done with these Liberators. Very much worth it, I would say. course, when you're going for that early upgrade, it's going to slow down some of the other things that you're doing.
No, these Liberators have definitely paid for themselves here. I will say, I think DRG did a good job with the counterattack, though, with those Lings, but this is all setting up, and now we have that 4th base being taken, and pretty soon here, Kira is going to be pushing in and trying to end this game, and we're going to see how much damage actually added up here when the final fight comes down.
2-2 coming here for DRG's. Pretty much where he wants to be. He actually just canceled Baneling Speed to get +1 in his mutas on the way. There is a second factory being made by Kier. I believe what he's going to do probably is get like Drilling Claws, Thors, you know, and Reactor Mines to try to fight against this Ling Bane muta presence that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, and these mutas are hatching now, and like we mentioned in game 1, when the mutas are actually out, first of all, the Liberators, like we're going to see right here, they're just going to be killed off. But the next part is that you can't metaback drop and get away with it if you're not going to win the fight already. You know, Terrans that tend to overextend a lot will lose once mutas are out.
Ooh, look at this move. He's trying to snipe this base so hard. I don't know if he's actually going to get it, though. Speed Bane's mixed in here.
Yeah, there was a period where it looked like he might have taken it, but he has been chased away.
Yeah, it seems like DRG is just going to end up holding it.
Yeah, but I'll say Kira's handling this pretty well.
Yeah.
There's going to be more reinforcements meeting up here, so this is going to swing back into the Terran's favor. And again, it's this fight over a very weak 4th base, by the way.
Yeah,
I believe that base is in the red health.
Hopefully he has some transfusion energy there for it. Oh, man, no, it's
Yeah,
bleeding pretty heavily right now.
So when you plant the mines here, this gives you a really good position to kite backwards. And from there, oh, actually, you know what? I guess Zerg does have enough. I stand corrected. I thought that was going to go a little bit better for Kira.
Well, when you see a hatchery that bloody, man, it's a Bruce Willis hatchery right there.
It's walking on glass with bare feet.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how
What
bloody
that joke
it gets.
we said a long time ago? Bruce Willis is like a guy who's very good at as an actor at looking like he's about to bleed to death, but not quite dying.
Yeah. He's got a very good, tired, I have a headache voice.
I have a headache, but I'm going to kill the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know.
God, I loved his movies as a kid.
He still makes movies, you know.
Does he?
Some of them are
I don't
straight
know
to
anything
DVD,
about
though.
movies anymore because I live here. So I have no idea what's being made.
Did you see Tenet?
Dude, no. But I just found out that there's a new Bill and Ted movie, and I cannot wait to watch it.
I didn't know that. There's going to be a new Bill and Ted. Excellent.
It's already out.
What?
It's already out. Yeah, I know.
I had no idea.
No one told me.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo on that.
Living out here, it's like there's some of the big blockbuster movies get released out here, but we don't hear about so many.
Well, you and
movies.
I are not actually, let's be frank, we're not really movie people.
Yeah.
Like, I think last time we went to a movie was one of the Star Wars ones that I wanted to erase my memory after because it was so bad. Because Star Wars is not good anymore.
Yeah.
I did go see.
That was probably
I did go see Tenet.
Okay.
Halfway through, I found myself walking backwards out of the.
Oh, really?
theater.
It was bad?
No, you have to see the movie to get the joke. No, actually,
okay.
it was good. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
It gets a taste of signature of approval.
Oh, that's rare.
Yes. I'm not a movie guy.
No. Oh, you hate movies, actually.
No, I do not like going to movies, generally. Unless it's going to be really
You
good.
prefer to get your bad stories out of video games.
Yes, I do. I'll play a video game with a bad story any day. So we got Terran again pushing in here. Looks like he's going to be able to snipe the Thor, and I think the rest can be cleaned up easily. You're way out of his league in that fight there. Curie is also going to be taking a 4th. I think he's floating that down there now at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but DRG right now, he's got his 5th up. He's got a really healthy drone count once again, right? He's on 86. It's not quite the numbers that we saw in the previous game, but still very, very good. His hive a little over halfway done. A lot of roaming now with these mutas. I love that he practically took out that Thor in the last battle. Definitely a very important thing if you're going to fly around with them like this.
Yeah, just coming in here and seeing if there's any damage he can actually pull off. Zerg's also expanding into the very, very upper left corner here.
Like that.
Yeah, this is
especially
all
especially if he's harassing over on that side with his mutas too. It like kind of just buys time for that to be alive. And I mean, you got to commit quite a bit to the top left to kill that. It's just so far away from everything.
So things have quieted down on the Terran side. It looks like he doesn't have that moment where the big push is going to come through here and end it. He's going to have to try to mass up and come in here again. And it looks like he's going to try to do that by coming through the very middle of the map. But I think with the amount of gas that Zerg has, he's going to have so many Banelings. It's going to be very, very tough for Terran to deal with.
Yeah, that's a fact right there. If you have enough Banelings, it's hard for anyone to deal with.
Banelings can basically solve any problem in StarCraft 2.
If you have enough
you have enough money. Whoa, I said that, and then all those Banelings are killed by one mine, but usually I'm right.
Oh, that okay. I was like, did he hit detonate?
Yeah, that was that looked
holy
really weird.
crap! Well, that was a good mine then, let me tell you.
Yeah, that was very nice. So the push continues on up here. And let's see if this can do enough damage. Terran needs to set up the Widow Mines here. The Widow Mines operate in a lot of ways like the Siege Tanks. And if the Widow Mines get good connects on the Banelings and the Zerg doesn't trade favorably, and then the fight will seesaw back into the Terran's favor.
Well, you know, here I really like what DRG is trying to do here. Look at just the count of Banelings. It is insane. He's literally starting to connect with cores at this point. Looks like Kira going to continue to push up into there. That is where the Ultralisk Cavern is, and it's making chitinous, so that's actually really painful. The Ultras are a very important step in this process.
Okay,
Bad place for that.
Yeah, now Terran has won this fight over here. Let's see if they're going to try to clean it up afterwards. But it's pretty hard to take back with a little win that Terran has. And Zerg is going to win this fight. I was going to say, this is important because there's a base to the right of this, that if Terran wins that fight, he then kills that other base too.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
probably wins the game.
You know, I think, in my opinion, though, one of the big problems here is the loss of that Ultralisk Cavern.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, he still has a lot of workers. He has a big economy, and Kira is starting to hurt a little bit. But he has to basically do this all now with Lingbane Muta. And I wonder if that's going to be enough for Kira to be able to come back.
Okay, 3-3 is about to finish here on both sides as we're getting into endgame. So Zerg is reclaiming that base. Terran is actually, if you look at the mini-map, there's a 4th CC that's being floated down to the bottom right. I'm very curious if Kira can actually hold that. Because we're almost to the point where there's no more expansions on the map. You know?
Yeah, it's getting chewed up. That happens a lot on this map.
Yeah, this is actually a great map. It usually makes for pretty epic games.
Yeah, I do like the map.
Yeah.
I do like those.
Okay, so these banes are going to spill in here. And this is great play here by DRG, doing so much damage. And I think we're going to start to see DRG probably begin to take this game. It seems like there's not very much defense here. Terran did their very best to try to push in and try to do damage and take out expansions, but now these mutants are like a giant wrecking ball coming through here and just taking out all these bases. And again, Terran has the bottom right now. I don't imagine that Kira will keep it.
He needs to, though, like you said. Like, he needs everything to... He needs to be left alone for a minute.
Yeah.
He's having a hard time getting his economy and his army back together. Does have a lot of Marauders in here, but of course that does not help him too much against the Mutas.
Right.
See a very decked out defense at the bottom right. Of course, not Baneling proof though. We'll see if DRG spots it and tries to do anything to it coming up.
So right now, Terran is one wave of Banelings away from possibly getting knocked out of this game. If Zerg gets a really good engage, there's just not going to be a whole lot you can do.
The army he's made here, though, is pretty impervious to Banelings.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Marauders, and he's been doing a very good job of spreading that out.
Can't quite repair that turret enough.
Yeah, and I think this position's lost. Is Terran going to try to come down here and defend this? Is that the game plan?
Look at this efficiency, though. That was like a lot of Banelings used to try to clear that. Okay, it looks like Kira is going to bring enough units over to force that away. But DRG's not taking any damage to some of these bases, right? Like, top left is just fine. His 5th base is just fine as well. So even though Kira is starting to trade better again, I don't feel like he's making enough headway.
Yeah, no,
it's it's an inefficient trade for DRG, but he's got 91 drones behind him, so that's okay.
You know, these little Ling counterattacks of like a dozen Lings are doing so much in this game. All right, Zerg is starting to spill through over here. And again, these Banelings can connect with their targets on the Marines. GG, DRG takes it. Great series.
Wow. Yeah. I gotta say, it's like Just the style that DRG uses, where it's super drone heavy, and then the most supply efficient units in the game.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they die every time you use them, so it pairs perfectly with over droning into nearly 100 drones each game.
Yeah.
It's just, there's not even like a tempo play you can look for, right?
No,
Like with that
so.
type of economy, like he refills his money, so all the Banes can be spent, and then he just remakes them. It's a very hard thing to combat, but I think Kira did a reasonable job throughout the series. It's just DRG.
DRG is just too strong, man.
Yeah, that's his EVT is pretty damn good sometimes.
Yeah, it looks like he's probably going to be getting out of this group, but we got a short break up next. Solar vs. Zest, do not go away.